Hello there, YouTubers. This is Gus Estacio from Healing X Outreach. The next 2 weeks, we're not going to have Saturday broadcasts. Of course, today we're doing a multi-social media event. That is that I will be on Facebook Live. We will be talking about the cross in the Old Testament. It will also be on Blog Talk Radio simultaneously, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. And it will also be on YouTube. So it will be uploaded to YouTube. You will get to see the entirety of this event on YouTube, either on Facebook Live or listen to it on Blog Talk Radio. So this is going to be my first shot at this. My daughter is helping me out, as always, with technology. And we're not going to have one this Saturday. We're going to have it on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, a debate with William Albrecht and Muslim apologist Dr. Shabir Ali, who's a world-renowned apologist and Muslim scholar. So we're going to be, I think their debate is on the deity of Christ, and I forgot exactly what, but 1 o'clock Eastern Time on Sunday, this Sunday, as opposed to Saturday, which is when Dr. Ali is available, and it's a debate. And speaking of debates, the issue of whether the Bible advocates or condemns debate came up by of course, another YouTuber. And I often refer to them as MK. And I apparently have a new name. I'm no longer a misogynist. I'm no longer a cult leader. I am the Christian Crusader. And what a fitting name from MK, because they have a new name. MK no longer stands for their names. It stands for Marvel Comics, because they specialize in fiction, fantasy, and things that are just not true, just fairy tales. So Marvel Comics has given me the name of the superhero, the Christian Crusader. And I welcome that title. I know that the Crusades repelled defensively the invasion of the Muslims into Europe, and that if it wasn't for Crusaders, we would it would be a very different world. It would be a world under caliphate, which that still may happen because there are not anymore any Christian Crusaders. So I am the Christian Crusader, Gus Estacio from Healing X Outreach. And I want to talk about debate, because it was said that at 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 8, I believe that was the title, that was the scripture used, where it actually doesn't say anything about debate. In fact, let me look up that text, and I'm using this is a King James version, I think. It's a small New Testament, and we're going to go ahead and read that. It might be 1 Timothy 2:8. I think it might be 1 Timothy 2:8, but let me go and check to see if it might be 2 Timothy 2:8. But I think that they refer to, Marvel Comics refer to 1 Timothy 2:8, but let's see. Yes, it's 1 Timothy 2:8. Now, this is how it reads, I guess, in the old King James Version, and it says nothing, absolutely nothing about debate. In fact, I looked up many, many translations, and you will not find the word debate in the text, in any of them. Mostly, this is talking about being argumentative, being divisive, being personal in your attacks, being hateful. And so let's read it in the good old King James Version. I will therefore that men pray everywhere, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting. So it's about causing dissension, being wrathful, being argumentative, being bitter, and dissension, like we're in an argument. And so debate does not necessarily involve personal attacks or argumentation. In fact, my challenge to Marvel Comics was that a debate that would be cordial, professional, moderated, timed, and no ad hominems allowed. So that is no personal attacks. Let's stick with the issues. Let's talk about the issues. Let's debate. what is truth and what is false? Or what you teaching truth? Well, now you prove it. Prove it from the scriptures. And if what I'm teaching, or the person debating, the scholar that I've chosen, or the Christian apologist that would debate is true, then let him prove it. And that is very common in Scripture. In fact, we would not have a New Testament if it was not for debate, because this is what Paul does. Most of his letters are debating heresies that are slipped in the church. In Galatia, he's so upset about this, Paul is, that he even calls his brothers who have fallen for this false gospel anathema, accursed. And then he tries to correct them. In Corinth, they were partaking into the supper in an sacrilegious fashion. He talks about that. He talks about eating meat from temples that was sacrificed to the gods, food from the gods, and buying it and eating it. So these are all debates about contention of how Scripture should be interpreted, what the life of the Christian should be like, and what doctrines they should follow. And in fact, there are some translations that use the word debate, but they use it specifically with an incident in the book of Acts. And it's in the book of Acts. This translation doesn't use it, but you'll find that I think one of the words used is debate in as Acts chapter. Let's start with verse 24. In fact, I put verse 24. It's about Apollos, and it's Acts 18:28. But I'm going to start with verse 24. And a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. This man was instructed in the way of the Lord. He's a Christian. He's a believer. And being fervent in the Spirit, he spake and taught diligently the things of the Lord, knowing only the baptism of John. So here is this man who's a believer, who was brought into the faith by John. And he began to speak boldly in the synagogues, whom when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, they took him unto them and expounded unto him the way of God more perfectly. So Aquila and Priscilla now is teaching him the faith according to Christ. The part that he doesn't know, not that what he was teaching was an error, but giving him the full gospel now. And when he was disposed to pass into Achaia, the brethren wrote, exhorting the disciples to receive him, who when he was come helped them much, which had believed through grace. So this man, I mean, no doubt, he's really advanced in his knowledge of the gospel, and here he's actually helping them much, according to verse 27. Now, verse 28, for he mightily convinced the Jews. In fact, the word there is, in some translations, is that he was proving Christ, or he was refuting the Jews, and that publicly showing by the scriptures that Jesus was the Christ. Now, in some translations, it says that in public debate, he was showing Jesus. Now, even though this text omits the word debate, but let me prove to you that actually debate is an accurate and applicable translation to this text. Actually, the word is epidiknome. And epi means to show or to prove. Diknome is to prove a point, to demonstrate, to expose to the eyes, to give evidence or proof of a thing. And this is what debate is. To publicly debate is to prove a point, to demonstrate, to expose to the eyes, to give evidence or proof of a thing. And that's what you do in debate. One has to prove their point, the other one has to prove their point. And Acts 17:3, it says, they were proving Christ as epidiknome, demonstrate. Let me read Acts 17:3 because I have it written here, and I've forgotten why I put it here, but I know I put it here for a good reason. In the same book of Acts, just a chapter prior, Acts 17:3, it says, opening and alleging that Christ must needs have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Jesus whom I preach unto you is Christ. Opening and alleging that Christ must needs have suffered. And some translation says proving that Christ must have suffered. So once again, proving is a part of debate. It's a part of a contention between two. Jude 1:3 says that we are contending for the faith once entrusted to the saints. And so contend is a back and forth. Contentiousness is one who is causing disruption between two parties. So contending for the faith is a back and forth, refuting other arguments. We are contending for the faith once entrusted unto the saints. Jude 1:3. 2 Corinthians 10:5 says that they were destroying arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God. Destroying arguments, that's what you do in debate. It can be wholesome, it can be healthy, it can be spiritually beneficial by destroying the arguments of those that are teaching falsehood. So the Bible does not speak against debate, it speaks against being argumentative. In fact, 1 Peter 3:15 says that we are to make Christ sacred, and to defend Christ as Lord. Defend is the word is apologia, and I've already mentioned that. And do so with reverence and meekness. Now that goes back to this situation, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 8. We're not to do so with anger and bitterness. We're not to be yelling at one another and be in a spirit of heated argumentation. But actually, what we should do is we have debate where we give a cordial refutation of the other person's position. And that is what the apostles did. That's what the letters of the New Testament were. That's what early Christians, when they wrote their letters to the congregation, the ones that were mentored by the apostles, Ignatius of Antioch, or Justin Martyr, who wrote a letter to a Jew named Trypho, and had a letter called an apology, which means to defend. He was defending the Christian faith to this Jew about Jesus being the Messiah. So debate can be healthy. Debate can be spiritually encouraging. Debate is necessary in the Christian life, because in debate you defend the Christian faith. You contend for the faith, Jude 1:3, once entrusted to the saints. Ephesians 4:29 though says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. So, as Christians, if we're making videos and we have to bleep out some of the words coming out of our mouths, that is an admonition that Scripture clearly says that we should not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. We need to really watch and curtail our tongue. That's something to be worried of rather than debate. Actually, wholesome debate is, if it's possible, with Marvel Comics. If Marvel Comics really believes in their fantasy and fairy tale, their comic book tales, then they should defend their comic book company and try to prove that their comic books are telling the truth. But Marvel Comics doesn't want to do that. They want to find an excuse to not get engaged with debate because they made a lot of challenges that they can't back up. Their position is untenable. They can't defend it in a wholesome way of talking in a manner that does not involve ad hominem attacks, in a manner where they don't call people names like cultic leader and misogynist or Christian crusaders or fundamentalists. Rather, they resort to a lot of ad hominem attacks, and they can't defend their pretense. Colossians 4:6 says, let your conversation be full of grace, and know how to answer everyone. So Marvel Comics they don't know how to answer everyone. They said a lot of things, but when it comes to an actual debate, they just can't defend their position. And this is the telltale tale of Jehovah's Witnesses. Jehovah's Witnesses don't engage people at the carts. They pack their bags and they keep on moving because they can't defend their position. And the Watchtower Society knows that Jehovah's Witnesses can't defend their position. If a person if a person really believes, if you really, really genuinely believe in what you believe in, then why not defend it? I mean, why not see if you can defend your position? Because maybe if your position is not to humiliate a person or to embarrass them, it might not even be for the person that you're debating. Often, and I've done over 30 debates in 10 years on our program, Healing X Outreach. Most of them were William Albridge, who's a Catholic. And we've debated the resurrection of Jesus Christ. We've debated the historicity of Jesus Christ. We've had debates on the biblical canon. We've had debates on whether hell is eternal or a place where the wicked are annihilated completely and never to exist again. So we've had many, many debates, and in some of these debates, maybe we've made some progress with the debater, but many times the debate is for the edification of the listeners of the debate. I guarantee you that many of those Pharisees, most of them probably did not convert because of the debates with Apollos. Stephen went and he just blasted the Pharisees. No doubt he would have won his debate. And they were so frustrated they could not refute him that they took him out of the city. They dragged him out and they stoned him to death. And yet here he was just really giving the position that Jesus is the Messiah that they've been waiting for, and that they killed the Messiah that they have been waiting for. So debate can be wholesome if it is done in a spirit of reverence, meekness, and mildness, and sticks to the issues. Certain issues should not be debated. They're so minor that it's not worth dividing over. And that's what Christianity is about. It's about in essentials unity, in non-essentials liberty, and in all things charity. But certain things we just cannot be completely charitable about. We need to go ahead and debate these issues. We need to expose error. We need to destroy arguments. That's what 2 Corinthians 10:5. So that the public can see that this is fiction that this person is proposing. This is fantasy. It is comic book type of fantasy. It's not reality. And that it should be refuted and exposed. And that's what the New Testament letters were. That's what Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, did. That's what Jesus did. He exposed the Pharisees. In fact, he exposed them a great many times for them in their choice to try to stone someone. He said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." He tricked them in their language. They didn't want to say that he was from heaven, and so they said, "We don't know," as opposed to whether John spoke of God or spoke of men, and they didn't want to give credence to that. So that is the type of form of cross-examination that happens in debate. It's effective questioning that exposes the errors of the other person. And we operate with professional debates. We have 2 7-minute openings, 2 5-minute rebuttals, 6 6-minute cross-exams where one questions the other person and their position, and the other one just answers the questions. No, none of this arguing or yelling. This is debate as it is intended to be. This is what the Jews did. They debated a great deal. I'll never forget why Yentl, Barbara Streisand takes in the movie Yentl, wants to hide herself as a man. She wants to read books. She enjoys the vigorous debate in the synagogues, and that's because this was commonplace. This was a part of the Jews actually working out their philosophy, working out what they believed in. And so people would debate one another. And so debate can be wholesome as long as it is done in the right spirit. And that is up to the people. Can you do it in the right spirit? Can you participate in debate without being bleeped out? Because you cannot control your emotions and your tongue. We've actually had some debates where I think one debate we had last year, an atheist. And towards the end, he became a little bit arrogant, was dropping some F-bombs. And it was out of control. And I think he recognized a little bit, he was a little bit out of control. But at that point, the debate was over. And so it just really shows you that some people cannot be professional. And that's what debate is about, being professional, being cordial, being respectful, not only of the other person, but of the audience, the people that are listening to the debate. So, the Bible clearly advocates debate as being wholesome, something that is something to be done. The only place where the word debate is actually used in the Bible, in Acts chapter 18, verse 28, depending on the translation, but the spirit of the word is debate. That is epidiknoume. Epidiknoume is the spirit of debate. That's why they use the term debate there. And the only time that the Bible uses the word debate, it uses it in a positive manner, that a Christian is actually using debate to defend the faith. And then in Jude 1:3 it says, contending. We contend for the faith. That is debate, contending for the faith. So, see me at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. We're going to talk about the cross in the Old Testament. This is a beautiful and wonderful message of God's grace. And I hope to see you there on Facebook Live or on YouTube, or listen to us on our podcast at Healing X Outreach. The number is 1-347-934-0379. You can listen in at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 2 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Mountain, and 12 o'clock noon Pacific. And if you're in another country, I think the world clock you would need to use. But I think 3 o'clock in the UK is 5 hours, so it's 8 o'clock in the UK if you're going to listen or watch. So God bless you all. See you not only this afternoon, but on Sunday with Dr. Shabir Ali and William Albridge on the deity of Christ. God bless you. Bye-bye.